If a piece of technology can save me tedious hours of organizing data or doing repetitive work, I'm interested. And I'm guessing if you clicked on this video, you are too. If you're new here, hi, I'm Lydia, and I manage a short-term rental remotely and also a long-term rental in town. I also used to run a tiny house Airbnb in my backyard. Over the years, I've tested a bunch of software and tools, and ultimately I've landed on this streamlined system that uses technology where it truly helps and not just add another random dashboard to check. And I've also figured out which things are just uniquely human, where my personal effort actually really moves the needle. I've got enough on my plate as it is, between my job, my family, my life. I really value my time. So my goal is always to keep the real estate adventures as a side quest to supplement my income, diversify my portfolio, but not demand too much mental space or time that frankly, I do not have. In today's video, I want to show you all the actual tools that I use to run my rental business, the parts that technology handles really beautifully, and then the parts that I still keep for myself to do as a human. I hope some of these tools can help set you up for success in 2026. Part 1, let's talk about the tools I use for the financial aspects of the business. This is an area where it really makes the most sense to automate some of the most tedious tasks. I personally use Baselane for tracking incomes and expenses and generating good financial reports. Clean, up-to-date data is really the foundation to any sort of analysis, and this makes keeping things organized incredibly easy. In the beginning, with my tiny house setup, because it was our first project and it was just one property, we just used an Excel spreadsheet. But quickly, I realized the amount of manual labor, like having the line item and then having the receipt elsewhere, that's like so hard to manage and really not scalable. So I started with Baselane Core for $0 a month, which already has a lot of the automation and bookkeeping and banking features, and it was a lot more straightforward to have a lot of this in one place. Recently, they added a subscription level called Baselane Smart that added even more automation features, like bulk uploading a bunch of receipts and then automatically finding which transactions they relate to. Their banking feature also is just really easy to use, especially for multiple accounts on multiple properties, to have that all in the same place where you also do the bookkeeping. I definitely recommend giving them a try, and I'll leave a link to them in the pinned comment and in the description below. Thank you to Baselane for sponsoring today's video. As for business financial items that only you as a human can do, obviously the software can handle the data portion, but you will still have to do the analysis. I still have to do all of the big picture thinking, tax strategy, optimizing, because in addition to the hard numbers, I also have to take into account my personal goals, my preferences, and my general life situation as it evolves. I also use Projection Lab to visualize some of the more big picture, long-term planning to include retirement and like helping support our kids in the future, that kind of thing. I have found it to be a really helpful tool that combines the real estate aspects of my analysis with the rest of my life, my expenses, my other investments. And it's really helpful for tracking progress and for visualizing different what-if scenarios. What if I stop making YouTube videos? What if I want to account for higher expenses in the future? What if I sell one of my properties? I actually love it so much that I bought their lifetime subscription, and I'll link it below, and everything else in the video will be in the description box. But at the end of the day, this is still just a tool, a visualization aid almost. I am still the person who is setting the goals, coming up with ideas, and deciding what to do with information. Part 2, moving on to the operational software. You all know by now how many moving pieces there are to managing a short-term rental. There's the restocking of the consumable goods, there's making sure the HVAC filter gets changed on time, the cleaning is done, and those like really easy to forget random annual items gets followed up on. It can be a lot. I have it set up so that the remembering of the tasks is outsourced to a dashboard that I built on ClickUp. It keeps notes on inventory, and it's not like I'm like meticulously tracking every turn, but just annually or so, I get like a complete fresh update, and over time I get to notice patterns. It also tracks any known maintenance issues that require a follow-up or the recurring routine stuff that I just need a reminder on. I have it set up so that I get a push notification in my email because I also don't want to be remembering to go check the dashboard to find things to do. Just the other day, I got a reminder that that blue water filter thing outside of our house is due to be changed. And so that would be something that I add to the to-do list for my handyman the next time he comes. You're welcome to download mine or build your own. I also know there are software subscriptions that kind of serve this purpose that lets you track these things. I personally haven't found one that like looks nice. I know this is so picky, but I care a lot about the user interface. And I feel like if the tech is too clunky to set up, I don't want to deal with it. Plus, I already built my own, so it's kind of a moot point. Regardless, I definitely recommend some sort of system where it serves as a single source of truth and you're not having to deal with chaotic random post-it notes and to-do lists. As for the tasks themselves, because I manage remotely, most of it is outsourced to people. It's like the technology reduces the mental load, whereas hiring it out reduces the physical load because I don't live there. These two pieces together are basically the machine that takes care of majority of that operations. My personal human input is really just monitoring that machine and making sure it's continuing to run smoothly, reviewing any upcoming due dates and acting upon them, for example, by calling the fireplace guy to come take a look at the fireplace. I don't think it would be possible to be 100% hands-off, and I don't want to because I need to materially participate to get the tax benefits. But so far, I've been able to limit my involvement to a minimum from afar. Part 3, let's explore the software for communications. I use Logify and their unified inbox feature to send the same templated messages to different guests regardless of the platform that they book. I think regardless of which PMS or if you even use a PMS at all, having a template and refining it over time is a good idea because those communications do get repetitive. I also turn on the automation on Logify if I'm going to be inaccessible for a long period of time, like if I'm on an international flight and not quite sure if the Wi-Fi is going to be on the plane. Communication is definitely an area where how much you want to automate is very subjective and up to your preferences. Technically, you could automate most of your messages and use like the little AI button to craft a response quickly. Absolutely an option, but just not for me. I think there is a level of warmth and professionalism and quality that can't fully be replicated by a machine over human just yet. And so this is one area where I have intentionally kept some human touch just out of my personal preference. And also, not all responses and questions can be fully anticipated. We recently had a question from a guest who booked for a longer stay and they wanted some level of flexibility for that last bit of their stay. And so while I could just default to the normal cancellation policy and be like, nope, can't do anything, I felt it was a reasonable request and wanted to at least consider like some partial refund or something. Most of the time I do stick to our normal standard, but there are cases where I feel like it's a little bit more negotiable, and the thinking portion of it and crafting a response based on the unique circumstances, I think that is something I still think is valuable to get involved in as just me personally. I add most of the common questions I get into a bank of templates, and this is going to be my 4th year hosting. And even now, there are still scenarios that I have not encountered before. So if you're new to hosting, don't be disheartened that like every scenario seems to be a new thing and there's so many exceptions. That's just kind of how it goes, and you really can't expect to fully automate all of it right away. Part 4, I want to touch on the marketing for our rental business. We've set up a direct booking website and also presence on Google Vacation Rentals, and that is just through Logify. It kind of syncs automatically. Even though those are not our primary sources, it still attracts like a little bit more traffic and a few more potential guests. And to be completely honest, I think sometimes people find us first on Airbnb and VRBO, and then they look us up elsewhere to see if they can book the same place for cheaper. The direct booking and Google Vacation Rentals have definitely added revenue, and so in that sense, the Logify subscription has definitely been worth the money. We also have an email list where the incentive is mainly for repeat guests who want to come back at a discount. And it was really easy to build using Kit. They have a free version and it's just straight up an email list. I think it remains free for up to 10,000 subscribers. As far as human involvement, it's kind of funny. In the beginning, we were thinking, oh, we can do an Instagram page. We can have like a dedicated blog showcasing what is nearby and blah, 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 and drive traffic. We only did the basics. We have a website. We have an Instagram page that isn't really doing a thing. We kind of decided the time effort to establishing like a proper blog and a social media thing that actually drives traffic and results in bookings, it just isn't worth our time and money. If you have a super unique Airbnb that you want to showcase, or if you rely a lot on repeat guests, or if your revenue is just so high where a chunk on marketing would be a tiny percentage. Then I think investing time and money into a proper social media presence and a proper blog would make a lot more sense. I know you can probably just put some AI slop on your website, but I don't know. That's not me. I can't do it. Part 5, let's talk about pricing. This area of my rental business is almost entirely automated, and this involves dynamic pricing, which happens in the background, and reviewing short-term rental market data, which usually I do once a month, although around the holiday season, it's been difficult. I've used Price Labs and AirDNA for this. Both are fantastic. The great thing about using software for this is because A, it's way better than manually scraping data for your nearby Airbnbs and figuring out their occupancy and revenue data. Like, that would be close to impossible to do manually. And B, dynamic pricing is going to be faster and more accurate for most of us. I had one host whom I talked to a while back who does actually do her own pricing, and she has found that to be better than software, but she has just this hyper local knowledge. She lives where her Airbnb is. And then C, using software removes the emotional piece attached to pricing a place, especially in the beginning with the tiny house. As I was tinkering with pricing, those lower numbers in the midweek they just don't feel right. They feel like they're too low. Even though they're not technically below a, arbitrary minimum that I have in my head, it still feels like, I don't know, it's just like not enough. Or when the number is higher because it's like a really hot weekend and everyone is booking at the beach house. I remember seeing those numbers that are 4 digits and I'm like, I don't believe this. There's no way. But in the end, the software was correct. I've learned when using dynamic pricing, I'll pick my base price, I'll pick a minimum and maximum to avoid the crazy, out of range numbers. Add a few simple rules about bookings that are far out or like the minimum night pricing, but kind of trust it to do its thing. The human input in this case, I think, is similar to the financials category, where the software here does all of the basic data gathering and the computational stuff that I probably can't do as accurately, and it presents this massive trove of data in an easier to digest kind of graphical way. But I am still the person responsible for looking at that information and analyzing it and looking at my competitors and evaluating the photos and seeing if this new competitor is like in my price range, are they above, below, how does that affect my pricing, or if it does at all. For the most part with these analyses, I end up maybe tweaking my base price a little bit, adjusting some minimum night stays that are upcoming holidays. And I suppose most recently with the new change in Airbnb that if you use a PMS, you would be converted to host only fees. I had to make sure my pricing algorithm and setup in the dynamic pricing software has been updated to reflect that. Part 6 is the safety related technology. And the first one I'll mention is maybe a surprise, but it's a privacy screening / deleting personal data. If you Google your own name and your city, you're probably going to find your address, your phone number, your relatives' names, and your previous addresses, all sorts of ridiculous private information that at some point someone has sold to a data broker. I don't love that. And with hosting and people can like see my name and they clearly know where my property address is already, I feel like it would not be too hard for them to find further information. I just can't have that. Plus I have this YouTube channel, so I've been using Aura for that, and it kind of just screens different data broker websites in the background and submits these requests for removal on my behalf. I think technically you could go look up each piece of data that you can find on Google about yourself and submit that request on your own manually to these data brokers. But why would you want to do that? That seems like such tedious work. As for human involvement in this, occasionally I do actually have to click that button for like a final approval step for asking to remove my data somewhere. But other than that, it's been pretty hands-off. The other safety items have to do with the actual property that you're managing. So things like a security camera, a noise monitor so you can figure out if someone's having a big party, a Wi-Fi connected keypad that allows you to change the door code for a guest, for example, or unlock and lock when someone comes to repair something at your house, etc. And then smart home features like a thermostat and irrigation system. These are not necessarily like safety in terms of like burglars coming to your house kind of thing, but from a maintenance / preventing further damage perspective, these are pieces I wish we had from the get-go, because it could have allowed us to figure out sooner that the grass was dying or that the AC was not functioning at tip-top shape. I will say most of these safety-related pieces of software and technology are pretty hands-off on my end. Very low human involvement until I guess something breaks, and then we would have to decide what to do with it. One common alert that we tend to get is our minute monitor going off because it's past a certain threshold of a number of decibels. Our house has a capacity of 12, and so occasionally sometimes it's really just people chatting with each other in the living room, and you know, with 12 voices, it kind of adds up. In those instances, we would just turn on the sound on our Ring camera outside the door to see on the exterior, is it actually disrupting neighbors? Is it loud from the outside? Most of the time it's been fine. And I think this example kind of shows how the multiple pieces of technology complement each other and together helps us figure out the puzzles of what is actually happening at our house when we can't just drive over there and see what's going on. The last category I will mention is more on the long-term rental side, and it's rent collection. For that, I also use Baselane. It's super easy to automate, and then it lives in the same system as where I do my bookkeeping and my banking. The tenant gets a reminder X number of days before rent is due. They can set a payment right there, and I also get notifications on what's going on. Most of this is completely hands-off, and I think the only time I would actually have to do something is if something goes wrong and a payment doesn't go through. Hopefully, I don't encounter that scenario. Some honorable technology mentions that didn't quite make this official list include AI chatbots, which we usually rely on for reading long insurance policies or terms and conditions as it applies to a certain situation. We use Google Sheets and Google Docs like many of you do, and I didn't include them because they would be just so basic. But yeah, they're still crucial pieces that I use almost daily. And I fully believe sometimes the best tech is the simplest, easiest to incorporate, and gives you the most return for your time and money. So that's my list. I'm curious, what else do you have in your tech stack this year? For me, the sweet spot isn't automating everything. It's using tech to get rid of the boring 70% of work so that I have brain space and energy to focus on the 30% that actually move the needle or are fun to do. Don't forget to sign up for an account with Baselane, and I will see you again next time. Bye! It's called a cronut.
Oh, that really?
Yeah. Do you want a cronut? You have a bite?
Maybe.
You have a bite?